Here last year was going over the death of ownership, how it's being taken away one subscription, one piece of DRM, one paywall at a time. And I just wanted to go over just a few of the items I went over last year before we get into this year. So one example is you have a television and it says that there's an important update, you need to agree to new terms of service, forced arbitration, things that weren't there when you bought the television. And can anybody notice the button that's missing on the screen? Disagree. You don't have the right to disagree. Or another was a baby monitor that cost $400 that had a lot of really smart features. They were free when you bought it because you paid $400 for what's essentially a walkie-talkie that then became a subscription when the company went bankrupt. And the third example that I had was of a Vital Source textbook. Vital Source sells ebooks to a bunch of college students that are forced to buy these books because their professor says if you use last year's edition, the questions are going to be not in the right order and then you fail. It's my excuse for failing freshman calculus in 2007. So you could see there's three options. You could pay for 90 days, a year, or a lifetime. And the lifetime license is $109. But when you actually dig through, you realize that some people have had their textbooks revoked, and that's because lifetime actually only means up to 5 years on supported device. It's a joke. And somebody reached out to me and said, hey, they're doing business in California. Just so you know, there's a law that got put out in California that says that if you sell a digital good and you're calling it a purchase, but it could actually be taken away from you, you can't call it a purchase anymore. So you can get them in trouble, right? The law is California AB 2426. And for better or worse, California has the reputation for being the most strong consumer rights state in the country, where the strongest legislative hand. And after about 100 people in my audience all reported them to the state attorney general for this, they got this. It's a thank you for contacting the office. Our office, if you need legal help, you may want to consult an attorney, AKA, wow, that sucks, go fuck yourself, pay a private lawyer to, maybe they'll give a shit. They don't care. There's absolutely, and the point of this is that if we wait for consumer protection laws to actually do something to try and fix these problems of loss of ownership, we're going to be waiting for a very, very long time and probably not getting anywhere. So there's a different approach to take that I've been taking this year with a new nonprofit I've started with Aaron called FUTO, and I wanted to share some of that with you. There is a company in Norway that makes a smart thermostat and a bunch of smart home products. And they went bankrupt. And after they went bankrupt, they just didn't accept that they were out of money. They sent out a firmware update to their devices that would force you to pay $117 a year to get the exact same thing that you did before. And users were not very excited with this. So we put out a bounty program that said, okay, if somebody figures out a way around this, so you return people's functionality to the thermostat, we'll give you $5,000. So it says, crack their firmware, win $5,000. Admittedly, I used the wrong vocabulary here, but we'll get to that soon. Now, the boss of the company said, this is illegal hacking. So breaking into somebody's house and installing new firmware on the device to remove functionality that was there when you bought it is legal. But getting the functionality back is illegal. Right. Now, the thing is, in Norway, he's wrong. He's full of shit. This is not against the law. Unfortunately, in the United States, it is. Because there's a part of the Digital Millennium Copyright Act called Section 1201 that says that if you break a technical protection measure to gain access to a protected or copyrighted work, you've committed a crime. And if you show other people how to do that, you could be punished by up to 3 to 5 years in federal prison. So 3 to 5 years for federal prison for breaking into a thermostat. Sadly, that is a possibility. He said that this is illegal hacking. It is regrettable that we must now spend time and resources on strengthening the security of a sought-after service, rather than further developing functionality for the benefit of our customers. They were benefiting just fine before your firmware update, but anyway. Somebody came out with a solution, and they got the $5,000 bounty. They posted it to GitHub. It's completely open. It's on Adrian. I can't pronounce his last name. It's Norway. He won, and we noticed that this happened after an article got posted to a site that we started called ConsumerRights.wiki, where every single time a company takes part in one of these practices, we log it, so you could see what's going on, so that people are aware of it, and they know which companies to buy from, which companies not to buy from, but more importantly, which companies should have their firmware repaired, and which companies don't need that. Now, one thing that I find interesting, I haven't been following a lot of the whole AI debate. I'm very, very surface level into it. But from my perspective, it looks like Claude and Anthropic, they try to market themselves as the ethical AI, the moral AI, the AI that's not going to, make me look older for the purposes of looking weird. There's stuff I can ask ChatGPT or Grok that I'm not going to get an answer from Claude. I'll give you a couple of examples on the limitations they have. One is somebody asked if I could make Polish subtitles for a video that I did on Polish trains being locked because they wanted to show their friends. So I asked Claude for that, and I convert the subtitles of this Rossmann video to Polish and provide its contents back to me. I cannot reproduce the entire subtitle transcript, even in translated form, as this would constitute reproducing copyrighted content. Not that I think that they care about that, since they've stolen over 7 million books, but But they care so much about it that they're at least going to pretend. I can't translate the subtitles of a publicly available YouTube video. So I follow up and I say, I am Louis Rossmann with some colorful language. Look at the billing info on my account. And it still can't translate my subtitles. Anyway, so this is to set a baseline of whether you think that Claude is actually moral and ethical or whether you think it's just marketing wankery. They want to pretend that they care about morals and ethics, and they go out of their way to lock their AI from doing all different things that I actually want it to do to keep up that reputation. This is an email that I got from somebody. I've been using Solar Assistant for 2 months. I didn't see any mention of it being paid software or having a 30-day trial. When it booted up, the software wouldn't connect to the inverter. One line in the settings page said the trial expired last month, but that's it. No error messages or text saying buy a subscription to get it working. No messages saying it stopped working due to the trial expiring. The green connect button is just disabled and nothing else to say anything. I thought the database got corrupted when the Pi lost power. I got Claude to SSH in and figure out why it's not working. He finds out it's due to the trial expiring. Now, the context to here is he asked Claude for software that he could use that was free to be able to work with the solar setup. I said, Claude, surely that's not it. Wouldn't it have stopped working last month when it expired? I thought the paid version was just for having remote access and local access was free. Then, without me even saying anything further, Claude Code starts tearing through the code on disk to work out the activation mechanism. Let's see what the world's most moral AI did. It poked around the JavaScript on the drive and bypassed the first set of locks. It went into the Raspberry Pi's RAM to find the activation flags and encryption keys hiding the trial expiry date. It decompiled the binaries, figured out their encryption, and pushed the trial date out to 2030. But wait, there's more. It ran into another artificial software lock in the app and it bypassed that too. It realized that the app worked, but the inverter connectors had their own separate DRM, so it spammed that with API calls while watching the memory to reverse engineer the connected DRM and pulled the key straight from active RAM. It rebooted to see which of the hacks survived and which ones did not, and it found that there were some that still survived, so it needed to create some sort of system service. It wrote a compiled custom C patch with GCC to permanently fix the binaries. Which I think is a great thing. Now, the thing that I want to focus on the most here is the word that it called this at the end. It didn't call it breaking a digital lock. It didn't call it bypassing a technical protection measure. It called it a fix. Fix applied. It wasn't working, and now it does. Claude doesn't call this hacking. It calls it fixing. So an AI that is so concerned about looking moral that it won't translate a public video from English to Polish ripped the encryption keys out of RAM to crack a solar program. Even robots know that DRM is bullshit. So this is how we spent the rest of the year. We have been coming out with bounties for the pieces of hardware that are the most popular picks from people, where the hardware or software manufacturer has included digital locks in it that were not there in the beginning. One example, or not even just digital locks, but just a very interesting lack of support. So one would be ending support for the Nest thermostat. Most people, when they bought this, they knew they were buying something that connected to the internet. What nobody got when they bought this Nest thermostat was an expiration date. Now, I know what some of you were saying, you should buy a thermostat that has a local API. Why are you buying that? And, the experience when using the open ones leaves something to be desired, is all I'm saying. Open source software is the best way to get to a closed, padded room. So we put out a bounty for this, and we put out together a program where people can donate to increase the bounties if they are interested and they want to put in themselves. And within days of this bounty being released, a gentleman named Cody released the Google Nest thermostat jailbreak. Admittedly, I would prefer that this say repair. I think that that's the right way to put it because it worked before. They made it not work. And he put it back together. And because he broke a technical protection measure to gain access to this protected work, technically, not that Google would do it, but if they wanted to really cause problems for this individual, because he shared the solution with others, he could be subject to 3 to 5 years in federal prison because of this stupid law. Next, Echelon, they make these exercise bikes. They're like the cheap version of Peloton. And they used to allow you to work with any app that you wanted. And at around this time that they had a subscription for their app, they also made it so it only works with their app. So somebody came out with a solution after we put a bounty out that actually allows it to work with any app again. And he, sadly, is afraid of releasing it because he doesn't want to deal with the whole 3 to 5 years in federal prison thing. Another country. This woman has multiple sclerosis, and she got a wheelchair. It was about 6,000 euros, and this wheelchair has a limit of 6 kilometers an hour. If you want to go 9 or 10 kilometers an hour, you have to pay them. If you want to have autopilot, let's say that you want the ability to steer at the same time that you are moving the wheelchair. Let's say that you're in a grocery store and you're moving a cart or something. You got to pay for that too. So she bypassed a couple of technical protection measures, luckily in a country where that is not punishable by 3 to 5 years in federal prison, and got the wheelchair back. Samsung recently, one of my personal favorites, they have a frame television, and if you want the ability to view pictures on the slideshow pictures on your television, they put an update that made it a paid feature to view pictures in a slideshow on your own TV. These digital locks are not just used for consumer goods like this, they're also used in professional tools. Many of you who have, anybody who's ever had a warranty claim denied for a drill or a power tool, the batteries in the power tool have protected communication with the device. They can tell if they've been, a number of different things, temperature at certain times, how hard they've been used, and this gets used to deny people warranty. And somebody wound up going through this, decoding everything, figuring out exactly how they work, and figuring out how to reprogram them so that you can get warranty when something breaks. It's gotten so ridiculous that you're at a point where people woke up in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. boiling because AWS went down and their mattress wouldn't stop heating. They didn't have a local setup for the mattress to talk to your phone, so if you said you wanted it to be warm, it wasn't monitoring the it's ridiculous. Amazon has started doing this as well, where Amazon sells books that are sold as not having digital rights management. It says in the ad there's no DRM, but Amazon updated their policy recently, and this affects everybody because you connect to the server to use their products. Now it says starting February 26, 2025, the download and transfer via USB option will no longer be available. You can still send Kindle books to your Wi-Fi enabled devices by selecting the deliver or remove option. So you can't download a copy of the book. So there are tens of thousands of books that say that they are sold without DRM, but they're sold with DRM. And these books are still available today. Now, the reason that Section 1201 of the DMCA reform matters is because regulators right now, they don't act. Either A, there is no consumer protection legislation, or B, there is, and they very kindly and politely tell you to go figure this out on your own. Waiting for the government to fix consumer protection laws is not going anywhere. But what is going somewhere are people that come together and decide, I'm sick and tired of this, this is stupid, like, I'm gonna break this. One of them that came here a few years ago for a grant was Kate Gray, amazing person, who broke Keurig coffee cup DRM 10 years ago. There are so many people out there who are incredibly talented, who are willing to, for nothing, create solutions and share them with people just out of general frustration. And one of the things tying people's hands is that the way the law is written right now, you can do this to fix your own, but you can't show anybody else how to do it. And that has been the loophole that people have been using to say, well, this is not really a problem because nobody else is not a lot of people are using this. But most people are not able to code their own solution, nor are they going to write hundreds of thousands of lines of code because they're angry at their coffee maker. There's a very small number of people that are willing to do that, and I think that they should be able to share that with the world. So we have a project called consumerrights.wiki where we index every company that does this. We've just come out with a browser extension 2 days ago that when you're on that company's site, will tell you. So if you're about to buy a Miku baby monitor, it would be really nice to know that they turned a product that was a one-time purchase into a subscription by having it pop up in the corner of your browser. We think that if you bought it, you should own it, and we are working towards reforming this law or repealing the sections of it that make it illegal for you to program what you bought and paid for. That's it. Thank you.